My wife left me for her rich ex, but showed up screaming the day I won $10 million. The notification sound from my phone cut through the quiet of my garage workshop at 6:47 a.m. I set down my wrench and wiped my hands on the shop rag, expecting another spam call or work email. Instead, I found a message that would change everything. Congratulations! Your ticket has won the Mega Millions jackpot. Prize amount, $10,247,000. My name is Dennis, and I'm 38 years old. I've been a diesel mechanic for 15 years, working on everything from delivery trucks to 18-wheelers at Morrison's Auto Service. Good honest work, but nothing that would ever make me rich. At least, that's what Emma always said. I read the message 3 times before it sank in. $10 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. More money than I'd ever dreamed of needing. My hands were shaking as I pulled up the lottery website to verify the numbers. There they were, 7, 14, 23, 31, 45, and the Mega Ball 12. The same numbers I'd been playing for 3 years. The same numbers that represented important dates in my life, my birthday, our wedding anniversary, the day my dad died, the day Emma left me. Emma left me 6 months ago. Walked out of our small ranch house in Bakersfield with 2 suitcases and a speech about how she deserved better. How she was tired of living paycheck to paycheck. How she'd reconnected with her college boyfriend Marcus, who owned a chain of luxury car dealerships and could give her the life she'd always wanted. "You're a good man, Dennis," she'd said, standing in our living room with tears in her eyes. "But I can't pretend anymore that this is enough. I need more than fixing trucks and Friday night dinners at Applebee's. Marcus can give me that life." I'd watched her drive away in her Honda Civic, the same car I'd spent 3 weekends fixing when the transmission went out. The same car where I'd proposed to her 4 years earlier. The same car that was now taking her to her new life with a man who'd never gotten grease under his fingernails or worried about making rent. That night, I'd driven to the gas station and bought a lottery ticket. Not because I believed I'd win, but because I needed to do something, anything, to feel like I had some control over my future. I'd kept buying tickets every week since then, always with the same numbers, always with the same quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, things could change. Now they had. I called in sick to work and drove to the California Lottery office in Sacramento. The whole drive, I kept checking my phone, expecting the message to disappear or turn out to be some elaborate hoax. But it was real. 4 hours later, I was sitting across from a lottery official who handed me a check that would change my life forever. "After taxes and fees, you're looking at approximately $6.2 million, she explained. "Congratulations, Mr. Patterson. You're a very lucky man." Lucky. I'd never felt less lucky in my life. I had more money than I'd ever need and nobody to share it with. The woman I'd loved for 6 years was living with another man, probably planning a wedding that would cost more than I used to make in 3 years. I drove home in a daze, the check folded carefully in my wallet. My phone had been buzzing constantly. Apparently, lottery winners' information becomes public record pretty quickly. News outlets, financial advisors, and long-lost relatives I'd never heard of were all trying to reach me. But there was one call I was waiting for. One call that would tell me whether the past 6 months had been about money or about something deeper. It came at 8:30 that evening. "Dennis?" Emma's voice was smaller than I remembered, uncertain. I saw the news. Is it true?" I'd been expecting this moment for hours, but I still wasn't prepared for how it would feel to hear her voice again. "Yeah, it's true. $10 million. She said it like she was trying to make it real. I can't believe it. I mean, what are the odds? About 300 million to 1, I said. I looked it up. There was a long pause. In the background, I could hear music, voices, the sounds of a life I wasn't part of anymore. Dennis, I know this is complicated, but I was wondering if we could talk. In person. There are things I need to say. Where's Marcus? I asked. Another pause. He's traveling. Business trip. Dennis, please. I know I don't have the right to ask, but I need to see you. I should have said no. Should have hung up and blocked her number and moved on with my life. But 6 years of marriage doesn't disappear overnight, even when it ends with the woman you love walking out for someone else's bank account. Tomorrow, I said. Noon. The house. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. I hung up and sat in my workshop, surrounded by tools and half-finished projects and the quiet hum of the fluorescent lights. For the first time since reading that lottery message, I felt something other than shock. I felt angry. Not the hot, explosive anger that makes you punch walls or throw things. The cold, calculating anger that makes you think clearly and plan carefully. The kind of anger that had kept me working 60-hour weeks to pay for a house and a life that Emma had decided wasn't good enough. I'd been underestimated my whole life. In high school, when guidance counselors pushed me toward trade school because I wasn't college material. In my 20s, when Emma's parents made it clear I wasn't what they'd envisioned for their daughter. In my marriage, when Emma gradually stopped asking about my day and started dropping hints about her friends' husbands' promotions and new cars. But I'd never been stupid. I'd watched Emma change over the past 2 years, watched her become distant and critical and restless. I'd seen the way she looked at our house, our life, our future with something that looked like disappointment. I'd known something was coming, even if I hadn't known what. So I'd prepared. Not for a lottery win, that was pure chance. But for the day when Emma would realize that the grass wasn't always greener, and the rich boyfriend wasn't always the better choice. I'd kept our house payment current even after she left. I'd maintained the insurance and utilities and property taxes. I'd kept her name on the deed because California is a community property state, and I'd known that if she ever came back, she'd have a legal claim to half of everything we'd built together. Including half of any lottery winnings earned during our marriage. The next morning, I drove to the bank and met with their wealth management team. I opened new accounts, transferred funds, and set up trusts and investments that would ensure the money would work for me instead of the other way around. I also made some calls to people who specialized in protecting assets and managing complex financial situations. By 11:30, I was ready. Emma arrived at exactly noon, driving a BMW that probably cost more than I used to make in a year. She looked good, better than I remembered. Her hair was styled differently, more expensive. Her clothes were designer brands I recognized from commercials. Her engagement ring was the size of a small chandelier. She stood on the porch of our house, the house I'd bought with a VA loan, the house where we'd planned to raise kids, the house she'd walked away from because it wasn't enough, and she looked nervous. "Hi," she said when I opened the door. "Hi." I led her into the living room, the same room where she'd given me her speech about deserving better. She sat on the edge of the couch, clutching her purse like it might try to escape. "You look good," she said. "Rested." "I've been sleeping better lately," I replied. "Funny how that works." She winced. "Dennis, I know you have every right to hate me. I know what I did was horrible. But I need you to understand that it wasn't about you. It was about me, about what I thought I needed. And what was that? Security. Stability. A future that didn't involve worrying about money all the time. She looked around the room, taking in the furniture we'd bought together, the pictures on the walls, the life we'd built. I thought Marcus could give me that. Past tense. Her laugh was bitter. Marcus is a lot of things, but he's not you. He's not kind or patient or faithful. He's not the kind of man who fixes my car without being asked or remembers my favorite coffee order or holds me when I have nightmares. But he's rich. Yes, she said quietly. He's rich. And I thought that was enough. I studied her face, looking for signs of the woman I'd married. She was still beautiful, still the same Emma who'd laughed at my jokes and believed in my dreams and promised to love me for better or worse. But there was something different now, something harder around the edges. Why are you here, Emma? Because I made a mistake, she said, her voice breaking. Because I threw away the best thing in my life for something that looked shinier. Because I love you, and I'm hoping that maybe, somehow, you can forgive me. And the money? The lottery win? That's just a coincidence. She looked down at her hands. I won't lie to you. The money changes things. It makes it possible for us to have the life I thought I wanted. But even if there was no lottery win, even if nothing had changed, I'd still be here. Because I realized that the life I thought I wanted isn't worth having without you. I believed her. That was the hell of it. I could see in her eyes that she meant every word. She genuinely learned that money couldn't buy happiness, that security wasn't worth sacrificing love, that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. But I'd learned some things too. I got a call yesterday, I said. From a lawyer. Turns out that since we're still legally married, you're entitled to half of any assets acquired during our marriage. Including lottery winnings. Her face went pale. Dennis, I didn't come here for the money. I know. But the law is the law. You could walk out of here with $5 million and a clean conscience. Start over wherever you want. Build whatever life you want. I don't want to start over, she said. I want to come home. To me? Or to the money? To you, she said firmly. To us. To the life we were building before I got scared and stupid and selfish. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the yard I'd spent countless weekends maintaining, the garden Emma had planted when we first moved in, the life we built together one paycheck at a time. Do you know what I did after you left? I asked. I heard you kept working. Kept taking care of the house. I kept playing the lottery. Same numbers every week. Our anniversary. My birthday. The day my dad died. The day you left me. I turned to face her. I kept playing because I needed to believe that sometimes, if you're patient enough and persistent enough, things work out the way they're supposed to. Dennis. I won the lottery, Emma. $10 million. More money than we ever dreamed of having. But I lost something worth more than that. What? The ability to trust that someone loves me for who I am, not what I can provide. She started crying then, quiet tears that rolled down her cheeks and landed on her expensive dress. I know I hurt you. I know I broke something between us that might never be fixed. But I'm asking you to try. I'm asking you to give us another chance. And Marcus? I ended things with Marcus 2 weeks ago. Before I knew about the lottery. Before I knew about any of this. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I ended it because I realized I was living someone else's life, trying to be someone I'm not. I walked back to the couch and sat down across from her. If I said yes, if I said we could try again, what would that look like? I don't know, she admitted. I know it would take time. I know you'd have to learn to trust me again. I know I'd have to prove that I've changed, that I've learned from this mistake. And if I said no, then I'd respect that. I'd sign whatever papers you wanted me to sign. I'd take nothing and disappear from your life forever. You'd give up $5 million. I'd give up $50 million if it meant you might consider forgiving me someday. I looked at her sitting there in her designer clothes and expensive jewelry, humbled and broken and asking for a second chance. 6 months ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. 6 months ago, I would have been grateful that she'd come back at all. But I wasn't the same man who'd watched her drive away in her Honda Civic. I wasn't the same man who'd accepted being told he wasn't enough. Winning the lottery hadn't just changed my bank account, it had changed my perspective on what I deserved and what I was willing to accept. I need time, I said finally. I need time to think about this. How much time? I don't know. Maybe a lot. Maybe forever. She nodded. I understand. I don't have the right to ask for anything more. There's something else, I said. I'm not the same person you left. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being grateful that someone chose me. I'm not going to accept being someone's second choice or backup plan. I know. If we do this, if we try again, it's going to be different. I'm different. I know what I'm worth now, and I'm not going to settle for less than that. I wouldn't want you to, she said. The man I fell in love with was strong and confident and sure of himself. I'm the one who made you doubt that. Yeah, I said. You did. She stood up, clutching her purse again. I should go. Give you space to think. Emma? Yeah. I'm keeping the house. Whatever happens between us, I'm keeping the house. I wouldn't want it any other way, she said. This is your home. It always was. I walked her to the door and watched her drive away in her BMW, just like I'd watched her drive away in her Honda Civic 6 months earlier. But this time felt different. This time, I was the one with the power to choose. That evening, I called my lawyer and financial advisor. I restructured my assets, set up trusts and investments, and ensured that my money would be protected regardless of what happened with Emma. I also had divorce papers drawn up, just in case. Over the next few weeks, Emma called every few days. She didn't ask for money or push for an answer. She just talked, about her job, about her family, about the mistakes she'd made and the lessons she'd learned. She told me about her life with Marcus, about the loneliness of being with someone who saw her as a trophy rather than a partner. I listened, but I didn't make any promises. Meanwhile, the lottery win had changed everything else about my life. I'd quit my job at Morrison's Auto Service and bought the shop outright. I kept the same employees and gave everyone raises, but now I was the owner instead of just another mechanic. I'd also bought a new house, a beautiful place on 5 acres outside town, with a workshop that was twice the size of my old garage. I was building a life that was entirely my own, funded by my own luck and protected by my own choices. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. 3 months after our conversation, Emma called with different news. I'm pregnant, she said without preamble. I sat down hard in my workshop chair. Whose? Yours, she said quietly. From that night before I left. I just found out yesterday. The night before she left. I remembered it clearly, one last attempt to connect, to bridge the gap that had been growing between us for months. I'd thought it meant something. Apparently, it had. Are you sure? I'm sure. I've been to the doctor. I'm about 3.5 months along. I did the math. She'd been with Marcus for most of her pregnancy, letting him believe he might be the father. Does he know? I told him yesterday. He didn't take it well. He said I'd tricked him, that I'd used him as a backup plan. Her laugh was hollow. He wasn't wrong. Emma. I don't want anything from you, Dennis. I don't want your money or your house or your forgiveness. I just thought you had a right to know that you're going to be a father. I stared at the wall of my workshop, at the tools I'd collected over 15 years of working with my hands, at the life I'd built from nothing. I thought about the baby growing inside the woman I'd loved and lost and maybe loved again. I thought about the future I'd imagined for myself and the future that was now being handed to me whether I wanted it or not. Where are you living? I asked. I got an apartment in town. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. What about work? I'm still at the dental office. They're letting me work part-time until the baby comes. And after? I don't know. I'll figure it out. I closed my eyes and made a decision that would change everything again. Move into the guest house. What? I bought a place outside town. 5 acres. There's a guest house on the property. 2 bedrooms, full kitchen, separate entrance. Move in there. Dennis, I can't, you can and you will. My child isn't going to grow up in some cramped apartment because its parents couldn't figure out how to be adults. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's responsibility. I'm going to be a father, and I'm going to do it right. There was a long pause. What does this mean for us? I don't know yet. But I know what it means for our child. It means they're going to have 2 parents who put their needs first, regardless of what happens between us. Okay, she said softly. Okay. Emma moved into the guest house 2 weeks later. I helped her carry her boxes, not many, considering she'd been living someone else's life for 6 months. We were polite and careful with each other, like strangers sharing space rather than 2 people who'd once shared everything. But slowly, over the weeks that followed, we found our rhythm. I'd see her in the mornings when she left for work. She'd wave from her car, and I'd wave back from my workshop. In the evenings, we'd sometimes sit on her porch and talk about the baby, about names and nurseries and the future we were creating whether we were ready or not. She never asked about the money. Never hinted that she expected anything beyond what I'd already given her. She got a job at a different dental office, one closer to the house, and started building a life that was hers alone. I watched her change back into the woman I'd married. The expensive clothes gave way to comfortable jeans and sweaters. The designer jewelry disappeared. She planted a garden behind the guest house and learned to cook meals that didn't come from expensive restaurants. She was becoming herself again, and I was falling in love with her all over again. The night she went into labor, I was in my workshop rebuilding an engine when I heard her calling my name. I found her standing in her kitchen, hands on her belly, breathing through contractions. "It's time," she said. I drove her to the hospital with steady hands and a clear head, the same way I'd handled every crisis in my life. But inside, I was terrified. Not of being a father, I'd wanted children for years. I was terrified of how much I wanted this to work, how much I wanted us to be a family again. Our daughter was born at 3:47 a.m. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, with Emma's eyes and what the nurse claimed was my stubborn chin. We named her Grace, after my grandmother, and when they placed her in my arms for the first time, I understood what people meant when they said your life could change in an instant. She's perfect, Emma whispered from her hospital bed. Yeah, I said, unable to look away from my daughter's face. She is. Dennis? Yeah. I love you. I never stopped loving you. I know that doesn't fix what I did, and I know it doesn't guarantee anything, but I needed you to know. I looked at Emma, exhausted and beautiful and holding our daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. I thought about the journey that had brought us here, the betrayal and the lottery win and the months of careful rebuilding. I thought about trust and forgiveness and second chances. I love you too, I said. I tried not to, but I never stopped either. So what happens now? Now we figure it out. Day by day. No promises except to Grace. No guarantees except that we'll do right by her. And us? We'll see. We'll take it slow and see what happens. 6 months later, Emma moved back into the main house. Not into our old bedroom, she took the guest room on the first floor, next to the nursery. We were roommates and co-parents, and slowly, carefully, we were becoming something more. A year after Grace was born, I asked Emma to marry me. Not because of the money or the baby or some misguided idea of obligation. I asked her because I'd learned to trust her again, and she'd learned to be worthy of that trust. She said yes, and we had a small ceremony in our backyard with Grace babbling in my arms and Emma glowing in a simple white dress. No fancy reception, no expensive honeymoon. Just us and our daughter and the life we'd built from the ashes of what we'd lost. The lottery money had changed everything and nothing. It had given us security and options and the ability to build the life we wanted. But it hadn't fixed our marriage. We'd done that ourselves, one conversation and one choice at a time. I still play the lottery sometimes, though not with the same desperate hope I used to have. I've already won everything that matters. I have a wife who loves me for who I am, a daughter who thinks I'm a hero for fixing her toys, and a life that's entirely my own. Emma never talks about Marcus or the life she thought she wanted. Sometimes I catch her looking at our house, our family, our simple life with something that looks like wonder. Like she can't believe she almost threw it all away. But I understand. I almost threw it away too. I almost let pride and hurt keep me from the best thing that ever happened to me. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving you're right, it's being wise enough to let someone prove they can change. My name is Dennis Patterson. I'm a lottery winner, a husband, a father, and a man who learned that the greatest jackpot isn't money you win, it's the life you choose to build with the people who matter most. And that's worth more than any amount of money anyone could ever win.